Good afternoon, folks. Get my reading glasses off now that I've gotten this thing recording. 21st of October, Saturday afternoon. I'm doing one of my favorite things, laundry. I know it's weird for a man to like to do laundry, but I love to do it. It's very meditative. I do it kind of by rote. It's a very basic chore, not much to it. And when I'm done, I like having the clean clothes. It's almost meditative. I'm getting a little bit of glare on this screen that I don't like. So I'm going to pull the curtain behind me, see if that helps. How's that? Oh yeah, that's much better. I'm still getting some pretty bright glare from behind there, but it's just going to be that way because the sun's coming pretty directly in there. Now I've got my hearing aids in and the Bluetooth is connected to the phone. From what I can tell, the audio is pretty good when I use it this way. Air conditioner is running on full blast. It got too hot. I made that executive decision. It was hitting 89 or 88, 89 inside. So it's down to 85 inside. A little warmer than what I like. Like I said, I'd like to get a little bit better set of digs. Something with better insulation. And with ducted air conditioners up on the roof with ductwork in between so that you don't have that noisy beast inside here. I'm not a good pet owner. Her water dish is low on water. I don't know how to pause and restart this thing up smoothly, so. We're on the verge of war right now. Everything we're going through is in the Bible. The rain. The Bible is written at several levels. And this proper name version of the King James Bible is the King James Bible. However, it's much improved. See, the King James Bible doesn't have the proper name of Yahweh in it. Ptolemy II, when he was translating the Bible into Greek, producing Septuagint, which, by the way, he felt necessary because the entire civilized world had been Hellenized by then. Ptolemy, I believe, was one of the one of the Macedonian generals under Alexander the Great. There were 4 generals that divided up that empire of Alexander the Great. He took the proper name of God, Yahweh, out of the Bible. We don't know why. We don't know if he was a good guy or a bad guy. That's up for debate. It remains to be determined. And this proper name version of the King James Bible puts the name back in the proper places. It's written in modern English. There are a couple words that are translated slightly differently. There's some phrases, some idioms, some idiomatic phrases that have been translated slightly different. The these and thous have been taken out of it. And it is an improvement. And for those people out there who say they're going to stick with the original King James was not a nice man. He was a horrible individual. Charles Dickens wrote a 4-page intro about the character of King James. It was that bad. So, petting my dog, she's just sitting beside me. She's happy I'm back in. So, when I'm doing laundry, I'm in and out. She doesn't like it. I had her tied up over there while I was hanging clothes on the line. That was okay, but somebody had to come by to try to feed my dog. And I don't want them approaching my dog when I'm not there. And I was negligent because I was on the phone inside the laundry room for a minute. Come outside to the commotion, and this woman's trying to feed my dog, and my dog is anxious. Not a good combination. Anyway, and she's kind of trained not to accept food from anybody else but me. I got to work on that. I've got to get back into training. I know it's me who gets the training, not the dog, really. But I want you to hit the link down below. And if you wouldn't mind to show your support for Yahweh, your support for the Bible, your support for the faith, the way, hit that like button. It won't take you but a second and a half. Just smash that like button. Subscribe if you want. I don't have many subscribers on this particular channel. My other channel, I'm not allowed to upload for a couple of weeks because of a second strike. I think I was in error. I was trying to talk about something of critical importance, and I must have slipped up and just made mention of one of these modern medical miracle treatments that I don't think is worth the powder to blow it to hell. It's no good. It's non-functional gear. Got it? Capiche? It's causing more harm than good. But we won't go into that at all. I want you to buy a copy of the Bible. I get a little bit of money off it. I haven't sold many Bibles yet. I want to sell 1 million of them. Sell 1 million of them, I'm going to be a pretty wealthy guy. I'm going to have to, well, going to have to take care of things. Business then. I'd like a little bit better digs. Bigger rig. I want to be able to carry cases of Bibles. I want to be able to haul cargo. The proper name version of the King James Bible is very recent, 2015. These copies were printed in Belarus. The large print leatherette copy that I have, the brown copy, that's printed in Belarus. I think the others are printed in Belarus again. We got a good deal. We pass that savings on to you. And it is probably half the price of the competitors, or less than half the price. And it's an improvement. It is better, I assure you. What happens if you read it? You access the mind of God. You start to perceive things differently. You start to understand the world the way it is today, how it was, how we got here, and what's going on. More importantly, you'll realize who the enemy is. And then the benefit of that is you might realize who you are and what your place is in all of this. And in case you're wondering, it's incumbent upon the individual to read the Bible and determine their position in the way, in the faith of our fathers, and take up that proper place. And if you've got a peculiarity about your position, the rest of us are going to want to know about it. So tell us about it. We want to know. We want to hear from you. Things are going to be unfolding very fast. Just talking to a dear brother who called me up, and he's not paying attention to any of this rumors of war and all that, because we are going to hear about that stuff. Things are opening up really fast. Now, the United States is trying to rush China into a war. It's pretty weird. I don't know what to make of it. They're trying to tell us that we can't stand against the Chinese. Oh boy, I really don't want to take them on. They have a far better industrial base than we have. And those people here talk about our ability to wage war and our war machine. We don't have the industrial base necessary to produce the armaments to be able to wage a sustained war. We don't have the military set up to wage 2 wars at one time. 2.5 wars, actually, at one time. We don't even have enough military ready to fight 1 war. It turns out that, I didn't realize it, but Biden's about to send a whole bunch of troops over to Eastern Europe. 3,000 to 5,000. That's what they're telling. Well, they haven't told us about that yet. But when they sacrifice those boys, they're going to tell us to rile us up. I didn't realize it, but the Screaming Eagles have been over there. At least they were over there this summer. Those boys don't mess around. They are one of the most renowned brigades we have. I don't remember the size of them. I just know the Screaming Eagles, the 101st Airborne, pretty serious, well-trained bunch of swinging dicks. I mean, they will bail into the area. They'll make the sacrifice. They'll go after the other son of a bitch. They really will. Our leaders gave us this, and my prayer is that our troops are protected. My prayer is further that the politicians be revealed for their corruption and their utter plans to destroy us, not just other countries. You see, they take turns, evidently, as far as who they're going to destroy. They're playing a really bad game. And at this point, they've decided it's the United States of America's time to take the hit. So they're going to reduce us to rubble. That's their goal set more than 10 years ago at Bilderberg. Alex Jones reported on that. The boy's good for something after all. Besides being a jackass, arguing with Piers Morgan, what a waste of time that was. And how horrible did he make gun owners look? Made us look like nuts. I think he's an agent provocateur. And he was married to a woman from the Bronfman family who bought that studio for him. Got a divorce from her, I understand. But still, he won't finger the enemy. He won't tell you about the enemy and who they are. And then we have the illustrious senator from Vermont telling us that telling the Congress that the country doesn't trust them. And a majority of the country believes they're going to have to take up arms against their own government. I don't think we're in the belief stage, the thinking stage. I think we're in the knowing stage. This government does not represent us. We do not have control over it. The electorate has not been in control of this nation since the election of Woodrow Wilson. Every one of those presidents has been chosen for us. And they're totally controlled, just like these congressmen, senators, and your Supreme Court justices. They're guilty of bad behavior. Every one of them takes the Chi-Com's bribe. They travel over there, they get paid for a speech. I imagine the speech they're getting paid for is when they're exiting the plane and saying hello. It's like $1 million or $2 a year they get paid by the Chi-Coms. They get paid better by the Chi-Coms than they do by our own government. Gee, do you think that's a conflict of interest? Folks, I really want you to buy these Bibles. I'd like to be able to make a little bit of money. I'd like to get better digs. I finally think I have a good idea of what I want in a rig. I'm going budget, bare minimum. I'm doing a cost benefit thing. I've come down to an older coach with a good engine, good transmission, a good frame, good suspension, excellent woodwork, simple, not a lot of slides, something that will sip the fuel because we're going to $15 a gallon. You can see the sun went behind the cloud there. Let me put a little light on this subject for you. There we go. Is that better? Folks, I think that if you read the Bible, you access the mind of Creator, Father, God, Yahweh. You definitely access the story and come to an understanding. And you find out who the enemy is and the different words for the enemies. And you find out what makes them the enemies if you press in. The Bible does not open itself up for the casual reader. So if you're just going to go on Sundays and rely upon some other son of a bitch to tell you what the Bible says and what it means, forget it. You're not going to get it. Not even, but you won't. You'll get it better from me than probably anybody else, okay? I know it better than most. You'll get it better from me. I do my best. But you're not going to get everything you need. And there's a lot more there. You got to remember that I was pretty much an old man by the time I sat down and read the Bible. I didn't have time for it. I was too busy getting an education, too busy scrambling to get a license, too busy working, too busy paying off my student debts. I didn't have time to read it. And then God took the wind out of my sails. I suffered a stroke. It was secondary to the improper discontinuation of a medication that was noted for causing strokes. That physician's still practicing. Physicians protect each other. It's okay. It's my loss. That's acceptable in the medical profession. This medical profession is so horrible. Before all this crap that's been happening in the last 2 years, which I'm not going to talk about because I might slip up and say something wrong here, something that's against the community standards, and I want to avoid that. Before all this shit hit the fan, and they pulled the plug on us to the extent they have, we were losing 500,000 people a year here in the United States. So out of 335 million, we were losing 500,000 people to mostly natural causes. But then I got to thinking about that. Then I realized that every year, 400,000 of us die from medical errors. Some on the surgery table, most of them from medication errors. And they have a license to practice. They have a license to kill. It's just the standard of care they have to hold up to. And they're totally defended. So every year before all this stuff happened, 100,000 of us died naturally. And 400,000 of us died from medical malpractice, medical complications, medical errors. They cut off the wrong leg in surgery. They left some stuff inside of the body when they sealed it up. They operated on the wrong person even. They gave you the wrong transfer. The nurse hit the vein, or hit the artery instead of the vein. There's all kinds of mistakes and errors in the practice of medicine. And today we have the epitome, the culmination of years of fraud in some of their treatments. I'm not going to go into it. Why do they have credibility? It's because they paid homage to the king. And in turn, the king elevated them above the rest of us. Let me explain that to you. When it came time for the income tax, the medical doctors volunteered. That's right. They decided they would volunteer and pay homage to the king. They would pay an income tax on their professional license to the central federal government. That way, they were empowering the government, and the government was empowering them. And they gave them a medical monopoly. And so the first year went okay. The second year, they doubled the income tax on professional license holders. I think in corporations as well. And so the physicians had a cow, had a giant crap when they had to pony up 2% of their income for taxes instead of just 1%. And so today, the medical doctors are the highest paid profession and the most glorified profession, and they're treated like royalty, or like gods rather. You know, their places of business are the temple, because you can't take a gun into the temple. At least that's the way it used to be. Remember, David took weapons into the temple. He actually picked up a sword at the temple. It was Goliath's sword. Remember, he didn't have any weapon at the time, and he showed up there. Saul was chasing him. David asked the priest about a sword, and the priest told him, well, the only thing that's here is the sword that you took from Goliath. And so David took that sword. They also ate the bread, the showbread that they were not supposed to touch, that they weren't allowed to touch. They ate it anyway because they needed to eat. They were famished. Just like Esau was famished when his brother sold him the bowl of red porridge, the red lentils, in exchange for his inheritance. His older brother gave all of that up because he was famished, because, as he said, what good is my inheritance if I die? So he made the deal with his brother Jacob. Jacob became known as Israel. Esau became known as Edom. Got it? You don't get this stuff from your big box churches. They'll never tell you about it. They'll tell you a little bit about it, but they won't tell you the whole story. They won't tell you that the problem with Esau was he's a bad boy. His behavior was bad. He went against Yahweh's commandments, against the orders. And the standing order was you don't intermarry with the people of the land. Yahweh mentions it 5 times in the Old Testament. Even said, if you do, you're out of the family. That's basically what he said. Esau went ahead and did it anyway. And when he saw how much it upset his parents, when he took the first Canaanite woman to wife, he took a second one to wife. So he doubled down on his sin and on rebelling against his parents, against the family. So he was out. And even though he repented in great tears, he could find no acceptance. He was out. That was it. Folks, go get these Bibles. I sure would appreciate it. If you want to pray for me, I'm approaching a major milestone in my life, a birthday. I haven't been very good at taking care of myself or watching out for myself or standing up for myself. As a result of that, I'm stuck in the courts in Texas right now, in federal court in Texas. We filed in a court in Texas. Upon the best advice of my accountant, pretty much twisted my arm, shipped my inheritance, my coins, to a coin dealer, collector in Houston, who was supposed to assess those and give me guidance on that. And apparently FedEx didn't deliver all the packages immediately. And one of the boxes that they delivered immediately had a hole in it and was missing some items. And they didn't pack it properly. They violated their own policy, and they didn't pack it in a FedEx box. And my orders were to double box those things, and they didn't double box everything. Anyway, the coin dealer refused to return my property immediately. Hired an attorney, tried to shake me down for some money to get my property back. It took months. And when he delivered it to me, I inherited some frickin' cockroaches. I hate that. Didn't have them beforehand. And I had to make 3 trips to Houston. And I had to make a trip to Memphis to try to settle this out as well. So if you want to pray for me, pray that I get justice in the courts and that I am made whole. I doubt I'm going to be made whole. I believe that what was taken from me was worth a lot more than what my attorney claimed for me. I think FedEx knows that. And this coin dealer may not know that, but he probably does. I just don't know. I really don't know what happened. All I know is that he gave me a bunch of grief, and he accused me of calling him the N-word. Oh my God. I was really angry when I read that. But I also had to laugh. Because I didn't... What N-word? Numismatic? You know, that's what my first thing was, to joke about it. Oh, I called him a numismatic expert or something, right? Because that's what he was. Turns out he was a Negro. And I didn't know it till I got the letter, read the letter. He was an intelligent man. He was an expert. He's one of the big 3 coin dealers in Houston. There's 3 big coin dealers in Houston. He's one of the 3. And my accountant was looking out for my best interest. And unfortunately, he failed to really check this whole thing. And anyway, it's a big bad mistake. I don't like it much. But if I had my inheritance, I wouldn't be on the streets. Well, the road, I guess, is what we should say technically. I'm not on the streets. I'm on the road. I'm trailer trash. I'm in a motorhome. I would have had enough money to buy a house and another motorhome, which is what I would like to do with it. That's what I want to do. So if you'd like to pray for me, that's one thing. Another thing you can pray to Yahweh for me is that I might be able to correct myself better, to self-censor myself so I don't get any more strikes, so I can bring you these presentations. And I have a health matter. I was in a really bad car accident, and I did not get a proper settlement in that. And I'm trying to figure out how to go about making that happen. And so this is an existential threat, and I don't have the money that I need to take care of myself. If I did have it, I'd be continuing with treatment with the alternative physician in Missouri, and I'd be going back to Dr. Tennant in Texas. He's very expensive. It's a $3,000 fee, basically, just getting started there. But I would go back and do that. And I would like to go back to the herbologist that I was seeing, but the federal people decided they had to bust him and arrest him. And that was approximately 7 years ago, I believe. Let me think. Yeah, 6 years ago. They busted him and they took him down. They had to do that before they pulled this big bad prank upon us, because he knew how to treat the immune system. He was getting great successes with people that had brain cancers. They were disappearing. And of course, he reminded me he doesn't treat cancer. He treats the immune system. And of course, they busted him for no reason at all. As near as I could tell, there was no reason for it at all. No complaints, no basis for it. They brought the squads out there, 2 squads of men, fully armored up with automatic weapons, and pointed those at his employees right after he had left state. They raided him. And there was one item in the office in the practice that they showed particular interest in. I didn't ask him questions on that. I wished I'd had. I wish I had asked him directly. I didn't. I was glad to see him again, glad to talk with him, and I didn't want to compromise him. And they were going to require him to accept a 5-year plea deal, or they were going to put his elderly mother, and his wife in prison. That's what the threat was. That's what your federal government does. All because they want to maintain the medical monopoly. By God, he was probably the best herbologist in the nation. I'd love to be able to see him again. They took away his practice, his freedom, his livelihood. I went by the property, it was sold. Tried to look him up, I couldn't find him. I'll be addressing that in one of the letters to one of my physicians that I'm trying to get to correct the record, his errors in the record. So I have to write a really candid letter to motivate this physician, and yet I don't want to make any threats. People don't respond well to that. But here's the deal, I do what I say I'm going to do. So I'm going to write him a very neutral letter in detail. And if that embarrasses him, so be it. It will become part of the medical record. If he doesn't want to practice properly, that's on him. But when a man makes a mistake, just fess up. That's all. Just do the little bit you can do to correct things. That's all. That's all I'm asking for, is a chance to have access to the resources which are mine properly, so I can go take care of my health. I didn't know I was facing this problem until he diagnosed me, and then the alternative guy diagnosed me with much more. Much more. You can't get these people to work together because they don't respect each other. And I can understand why the alternative guys don't respect the allopaths, because the allopaths are practicing strictly in cut, slash, and burn, and all of their medications are based on poisons, principles of toxicity and disabling. And outside of America, where you have better health care, you're required to go to the naturopaths, to the homeopaths first. And if they fail to be able to heal you up, treat you, heal you, then they refer you to the allopathic guys who practice cuts, slash, and burns, poisons, toxicity, disabling. They have better medical care outside of the United States of America. People are freer outside of the U.S. I'm so glad for that. Even the Thai people, the people in Thailand have more freedoms than we have here. The people in Ecuador have better medical care than we have here. The people in Colombia, they have much better treatment than we have up here. They don't just treat cancer, they cure it. Usually 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. It's gone completely. We're not allowed to do that because of some old federal statute that requires them to use these specific toxic, dangerous methods upon us. It's a very inferior practice, if you ask me. I usually don't ask for prayers for myself, but there you have it. I pray to Yahweh that He gives me the strength and the fortitude and the resources that I need to make the best choices, to be able to follow through on the best path to do His will. Just like Yahshua did not act outside of the will of his Father Yahweh, I don't want to act outside of my Father Yahweh's will either. And in case you're wondering, go read in the Bible about Adam, in the book of Luke, last verse of a particular chapter. I think it's the 2nd chapter. Adam, the Son of God. Adam was the Son of God. Eve was the daughter of God. Read your Bible. It's all in there. I have good report on my uncle. He took a bad fall. He's the oldest Kent in history. He's 97. I pray he busts 100. The wind caught his umbrella. It was a double umbrella big enough for 2 people, so he could take care of and protect his wife. The wind caught it. He held on to it and somehow ended up on his head. Glasses in the bridge of his nose. It's a week later. He's still got 2 black eyes. They thought they were going to have to operate on him to stop the bleeding. So he has got some damage from this fall. No damage to the pelvis. Thank God for that. It's going to be in rehab for a little while. He's not sounding as chipper as usual. Got to talk with him today. He's got a good sense of humor. He was making jokes. He wasn't understanding my jokes, though. They weren't that obtuse. But I guess it'll be a while before he comes back to full strength. Pray for him to have a full and complete recovery. Pray for my Uncle Roy. Thank you. Yahweh bless America.